Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Byte Club podcast. My name is Antonino Fabrero. I am the founder and CEO of Atsap LLC and the host of today's episode of Byte Club. Today's episode is going to be another informative podcast about something that has been affecting a lot of our clients this past year, especially after the iOS 14.5 update. Today, we're going to be talking about Apple's new Ask Not to Track update and how it affects developers and, of course, our clients. A lot of our clients here at Atsap have been asking us how Apple's iOS 14.5 update, which includes Apple's new Ask Not to Track update, affects them and other developers. The short answer to this is that it does affect them and it does affect developers. And the way we've seen it affect developers, the most common way that we've seen it affect our clients is through how our clients and other developers monetize their applications, their iOS applications, early on in development. And what I mean by this is the way that we've seen it affect most of our clients and other developers is through showing ads inside of their iOS app. The best example I can give you of this is if you're using a platform such as Google Analytics to display, not Google Analytics, Google Ad Mobs to display mobile banner ads or pop-up ads in your iOS game or iOS app. This directly affects you. The reason this affects you is because the way Google actually surfaces those ads is by using the IDFA, and the IDFA is an identifier serial number associated with a specific user's iPhone that kind of tracks or lets data be tracked across different apps or websites to kind of share information. So think of this as like the iPhone's version of a web cookie or a browser cookie. So what this means is essentially this identifier lets developers kind of see what other things you've been interested in or like. So if you're shopping on the Amazon's mobile app and you are looking for a new iPhone case, Google Ad Mobs and Google AdSense will kind of use that information based on your phone's IDFA identifier. And then when displaying ads in your app that's using Google Ad Mobs, will kind of maybe display ads for iPhone cases. This is traditionally how marketing's worked in web browsers and with web cookies as well. It's kind of the same thing. Long story short, it's an identifier that identifies a specific user or a specific device and kind of has history or shares history of what that device or user has been interested in or looking up or doing on other websites or other applications. So the important note here is that it doesn't mean that if a user selects the Ask Not to Track feature on your app that you cannot show ads in your app. You can show ads in your app via Google Ad Mobs. The only difference, or the biggest difference here, is that the ads will not be targeted because Google now does not have access to view data on you or your device on things you might have previously looked at or been interested in. So this affects the bottom dollar because essentially you're no longer being shown targeted ads if the user opts into the Ask Not to Track feature. And so that could cost a lot of companies or clients and developers early on in development a lot of money, because that's, someone a user is more likely to click on a targeted ad than just some random ad about something that is not relevant to them at all. So basically, for those of you who are not familiar with what's going on here or what has happened, any iOS version greater than iOS 14.5, so if you're using iOS 14.5 or above, as a user, as a consumer of an app, when you download a new app and you open it up for the first time, if that app is using your iPhone's IDFA identifier, a prompt will be shown, which will ask essentially if you want this application to track your data or share your data with other apps or whatnot. If you click the allow, or if you click the ask not to track button, this means that developers of that app that you're currently using no longer have access to that identifier and cannot access information that has been that other apps might have tracked on you, or can't share information to other apps about some of the things that you might be interested in the current application you're using. So from a consumer standpoint, this is a great new security feature. This is huge. I know personally myself, it makes me feel more secure knowing that other companies or other people can't really track what I'm doing. And I respect that, but at the same time, similar to what I said in the previous episode, these changes that Apple is making, or the things that Apple doesn't affect necessarily the larger fish, in my opinion, but affects the smaller businesses and the early stage startups and the individual solo developers, because that's how they can make some money off of these things, is by using these targeted ads to make money. However, the one thing I will say is the people who are actually fighting against this the hardest are the large corporations such as Facebook and Google. Google's pretty obvious, as I stated before. They're affected by this because their Google Ads platforms are directly affected. So they make a ton of money from other developers or third-party developers or other businesses or companies showing ads in their mobile apps via Google Ad Mobs. And a large percentage of the app marketplace is iPhone users. And so when you kind of lose the ability to put targeted ads out there, people are less likely to click on those ads, and then that affects Google's bottom dollar as well as the individual developers. Facebook similarly is upset about this as well, because it affects them directly too, because they use these IDFAs to kind of display targeted ads to people on their news feed in the Facebook app. And and their argument to this is very similar, in that essentially they're saying that this is affecting not just them and how they're making money, but the actual consumers of or people or businesses who are actually placing ads on Facebook. And I sort of agree with them on this, because even here at Atsap, when we place ads on Facebook, we run targeted ad campaigns that we want to reach an audience of people who are interested in app development, or interested in software development, or small businesses who are looking to get their business online. So Facebook is a powerful tool for people who don't have for people or businesses who don't have a lot of money to advertise in targeted ads in a way that are actually effective. So I can kind of see Facebook's argument here, and can agree with them that it doesn't just affect them, but it actually affects the individual small businesses or individuals who are advertising through Facebook. So yeah, I get their point, but at the same time, I also see Apple's point in how their main thing is the security and privacy of their users, and that's been Apple's MO from the very beginning. They've been very, very concerned with privacy. I remember a couple years ago there was some talk that the FBI, I believe, or the CIA had reached out to Apple and asked for a backdoor into Apple's devices for security purposes, and Apple basically said no and fought against this, because they said our main goal is to respect the privacy of our customers. And I 100% respect that, and I think that is that's an awesome thing. But I think we do have to have a serious conversation about how it actually affects the developers or the small businesses or the software companies that were using this, using targeted ads or any type of monetary system that's using IDFAs, and how it affects them. Granted, I guess one can make the argument that businesses and developers need to learn how to adapt to the market and to different times and kind of make a product around that. But the biggest argument I would like to make, and the thing that I've expressed to our clients is, while privacy is important, and I'm not saying that Apple should lessen up their privacy. I think it's good that they're increasing the privacy and security of their phones. However, in my humble opinion, what I think this might be kind of shifting developers towards, and startup companies towards, is we are no longer going to have freemium apps. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what the term freemium apps means, freemium apps are apps that are free to use, or they're free. There's a light version of them that are free that you can upgrade to a paid version. But for all intents and purposes, what I'm talking about here when I'm speaking about freemium apps, are apps that are free to use. And they're free to use because the way that these developers and these companies make money are through ads. And so, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, all these companies, all these apps, they're free to use, and they're making money through ads. And that's why it's free for the end user to use. So the big concern that I want to bring up here today is that if we take away the ability for developers to easily monetize their apps through some things like ads, how are they going to make money? They're going to have to start selling subscriptions or premium plans, or maybe the apps are no longer free to download. Maybe it's going to cost $2, $5, $10 to use an app. Maybe we'll start getting back to 10 years ago when software costs $100 to download or $100 to get the disk to install. That's my take on it. That's my biggest concern is, we need to start thinking as developers, as a community, how can we continue to monetize our apps and, be able to operate our apps when we might not be able to rely on targeted ads. And like I said earlier, it doesn't mean that this update doesn't mean that developers can't display ads in their apps. It just means that it's if a user selects the ability to not allow developers to track their device, this means that it's very hard to show targeted ads, and the likelihood that someone clicks on that ad is a lot lower than a targeted ad would be. And so that the less people clicking on an ad, the less money you can make, and maybe that affects the operations of an app, because maybe that's not enough to keep the app going. So that's a concern that I see, and a concern that's been in the back of my mind, and I want to make our listeners and our clients aware of that concern. And to be clear too, this doesn't just affect targeted ads either. If there's other reasons that a developer might use the IDFA identifier on an iPhone. This is just the most common reason that we see developers use that identifier, and that's the reason why most of our clients use that identifier. And that's also the biggest complaint that other companies such as Facebook and Google have been complaining about as to why the IDFA is so important is because the ability to show targeted ads. So yeah, I mean, it seems like a small issue, and it seems like it affects a very small portion of development. And while that's true, the thing that I want to kind of emphasize here is, again, in my opinion, if it affects the early stage startups and the smaller businesses and the individual developers, because now they don't have the ability to kind of maybe easily monetize their apps right off the bat. Again, you can still show ads, but that the power of being able to show a targeted ad, really kind of boost, for lack of a better quote, sales when the way you monetize your app was through displaying ads. So to put this into perspective a bit, as we were kind of researching for this episode, we found out through our research that prior to the iOS 14.5 update, it is estimated that 70% of users actually share their IDFA with developers. It is now estimated that after the iOS 14.5 update, that only 10 to 15% of users actually share their IDFA with developers. So think about that. That is a huge difference in the amount of users who are actually sharing their IDFA, which means that is a huge difference in the number of users that developers can actually show targeted ads to, or have the ability to show targeted ads to. And if you think about it, right off the bat, right there, that's going to be a huge cost to their, to the way these companies are making money. And this is not just this is not just going to affect small startup companies or small businesses or individual app developers. It's absolutely going to affect the larger corporations like Facebook, Google, Snapchat, and whatnot. So obviously it makes sense why people are so concerned about it. And, it's a reason why we here at Atsap are concerned about it a bit too. And so, we're going to continue to research and kind of figure out the best routes for our clients moving forward, and, kind of maybe help brainstorm and come with different ideas on how to monetize their app if this truly does affect their bottom dollar that much. If you'd like to learn more about the IDFA and Apple's Ask Not to Track update and how it affects developers and our clients, and how it might affect you if you have a great app idea, feel free to visit our website, www.atsapllc.com/blog, and check out our blog article called How Apple's Ask Not to Track update affects developers for more information on this topic. We thank you again for listening to Byte Club, and we hope that you will join us again next time. Let's build together. If you have a great app idea and want to find out how you can take that app idea from idea to market, feel free to give us a call and book a free consultation at our website at www.atsapllc.com. Likewise, if you own a business and you want to see how we can help you streamline it with software, book a free consultation on our website at www.atsapllc.com.